Hey everyone, Timbermaster here, and in this video, we're gonna be talking about how blood tests and lab work can help you better understand how to lose weight. So, blood tests for weight loss. Let's talk about some of the details right now. Okay, so we are gonna be going over why lab work can be so beneficial, 5 tests to consider, what insight they can provide, and what to do about the results, all so you can lose weight and keep that weight off for good. Now, before we get into everything, please keep in mind that I'm not a doctor and none of what I'm about to say is actually medical advice. I think that just from a broad weight loss perspective, understanding some lab work can be really helpful in allowing one to create the absolute best plan of action to help them lose weight. And remember, always consult with your doctor or medical practitioner before getting any blood work done. So I think that one of the biggest issues that we are currently dealing with when it comes to weight loss is that people actually genuinely believe that calories in versus calories out works. Now, if that was the case, everyone who ever tried that method would have lost weight. They would have kept it off and we wouldn't have obesity rates as high as they are. And you probably wouldn't be watching this video right now. Calories in versus calories out does play a role though. I'm not completely discounting that at all, but when it comes to weight loss, it can actually be a lot more complicated than we think. We could actually be dealing with a variety of hormone imbalances. We could be overly stressed. We could be deficient in certain vitamins and minerals, and we can even be chronically inflamed. And all of these things matter when it comes to weight loss, all of them. So if we have a better understanding of what's going on inside of our bodies, then we're gonna have a much better chance at taking the right steps to fix our issues. And once we fix those issues, we can start to lose some weight. Now, there are a lot of different blood tests that we can actually take, but I've selected 5 tests that meet specific criteria. Number 1, the test has to provide legitimate insight on weight loss and weight management. Number 2, the spectrum of testing needs to be relatively broad to cover the most ground when it comes to looking at the general population. Number 3, the tests must be easily accessible. And number 4, the tests have to be affordable. Now, based on these 4 different criteria, we can look at 5 blood tests that we should consider if we're looking to lose some weight and keep it off for good. So let's kick it off with what I think is the most important one, fasting insulin. Now, understanding what your fasting insulin levels are can be very important. In fact, as previously mentioned, this would be my number 1 test on this list. But why is that? Well, one of insulin's responsibilities is that it's responsible for storing energy in our bodies. And when we eat carbohydrates, our blood sugar elevates. And because our blood sugar increases, we're gonna be seeing a corresponding increase in insulin. Now, that insulin is going to start shuttling sugar and glucose throughout our body and drop it off in our liver, in our muscle, and our fat cells. Now, just to provide further clarification, when we see high levels of insulin, we are essentially putting ourselves into a fat storage state. And another thing that happens when insulin levels are high is that it actually prevents us from using fat as fuel. So there's kind of this double whammy effect going on here. We're storing fat and we can't burn fat. Now, if we have blood work done and we see that we have high fasting insulin levels, well, we can now create a plan of action to naturally lower those insulin levels. And what do you think that method is? Well, here are 3 quick tips. Number 1, heavily reduce carbohydrate intake. Number 2, get more sleep. And number 3, do some resistance training. So all of these can help lead to much more stable insulin levels and help you drop your insulin levels naturally. And when you can lower your insulin, you're gonna be able to start losing weight. The problem today is that we're more stressed than ever before, whether it be stress from our relationships or work, or stress from things that we put inside of our bodies, or stress from excessive cardio or bad posture. No matter what type of stress we feel or experience, we're going to be releasing cortisol. And because of this chronic stress, many of us are actually seeing chronically elevated levels of cortisol, and this could be a big reason as to why we can't lose weight, or we're seeing problems with unwanted weight gain, especially around our belly. Now, chronically high levels of cortisol can actually cause our blood sugar to elevate. And remember what happens when our blood sugar increases. Well, we see an increase in insulin. So if we get our cortisol levels tested and we learn that they're running a bit high, we need to try to reduce all the physical, chemical, and emotional stress that we can. And here are a few tips on how to do that. Number 1, stop eating pro-inflammatory food like grains, sugar, alcohol, and dairy. Number 2, get good quality sleep. Number 3, put your phone down, get off social media, and stop feeding those addictions. Number 4, do not excessively exercise if you are under chronic stress. So if you can do that and figure out ways to reduce chronic stress in your life, there are going to be some awesome benefits that are really going to help you lose weight. All right, well, did you know that about 28% of Americans are actually vitamin D deficient? Well, according to one study, correction of vitamin D deficiency in such patients was actually found to be significantly associated with weight reduction and improved insulin sensitivity. So that means that in general, people who have more circulating levels of vitamin D in the form of 25-hydroxy vitamin D are generally more insulin sensitive and weigh less than those who are deficient in vitamin D. Now, if we're able to test our vitamin D levels, particularly 25-hydroxy vitamin D, and we learn that we're either low or deficient, we're gonna need to try to up our circulating levels. But how do we do that? Number 1, we can get more sunlight without using sunblock. Your skin will actually see a huge decrease in its potential to manufacture vitamin D when wearing sunblock. Number 2, we can take a vitamin D supplement. And one of the great things about improving vitamin D levels is that it helps with your sleep-wake cycle. So you'll be able to get better, more restful sleep. And as a result, this can actually help with insulin resistance and cravings, because we all know that when we have a bad night of sleep, we want to eat garbage the next day, or at least I do. Now, about 1 in 5 women and 1 in 10 men have low functioning thyroid or hypothyroidism. And in over half of these cases, it's actually not diagnosed. And one of the big issues with hypothyroidism is that it can actually lead to weight gain. Weight gain and fatigue are actually the 2 biggest symptoms. Now, if you want to get your thyroid tested, this can actually help you determine a possible reason for why you might be experiencing unnecessary weight gain, low energy and fatigue, and maybe even a change in mood. And if you learn that you have a low functioning thyroid, there are a few things that you can do to help with weight loss. Number 1, cut out grains, especially gluten-containing grains. Number 2, consume more foods that contain selenium, zinc, iodine, and omega-3s. Number 3, do not eat soy or raw cruciferous veggies because they contain goitrogens, which can disrupt thyroid function. Now, it is okay to eat these cruciferous veggies if they are cooked though. And remember, if you think you have an issue with your thyroid, please consult with your doctor. So chronic inflammation is much more common than ever before. Now, under normal circumstances, acute inflammation comes and goes, but it becomes a huge problem when it lingers and we are experiencing inflammation from this chronic level. So this type of inflammation is associated with weight gain, water retention, fatigue, and even a big belly. And C-Reactive Protein, or CRP, can give us a really good idea if we're experiencing elevated levels of inflammation. Now, we absolutely do not want high levels of CRP. And if we get tested and learn that we're suffering from inflammation or chronic inflammation, we can take the appropriate steps to reduce it and hopefully lose some weight along the way. So here are some of the offenders that lead to weight gain associated with inflammation. Number 1, sugar and alcohol. Number 2, processed foods. Number 3, a high omega-6 to omega-3 ratio. Number 4, gluten-containing grains. Number 5, stress. And lastly, environmental allergens and toxins. Now, if we have experienced some weight gain from being chronically inflamed and we decide to modify our lifestyle and nutrition, well, we're gonna be able to see some reductions in inflammation. And as a result, we're gonna be able to lose some unnecessary water weight, see our waistline get trimmed, and we're gonna be feeling so much better. Okay, so if you feel like you've tried everything and you still can't lose weight, it could be a good idea to try and get some blood work done. But again, you should go consult with your doctor first. And if you want, I'd even be happy to get mine done and show you how I would plan on addressing any numbers if they are unfavorable. So if that's something that you're interested in seeing, please leave a comment down below if you want me to do that. I'd be more than happy to share my details and plan of action with all of you. All right, well, that's it for me. Go out there, tackle your weight loss journey. You got this. Thanks for checking out the video, and I'll see you on the next one.